Welcome back to another Unstoppable video podcast. Today's topic is going to be on mental health. Tom, I want to get your views on mental health in general, and more importantly, why is it so prevalent in today's society compared to, say, 30, 40 years ago?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard subject. It's a subject now that is becoming more mainstream and people are starting to talk about it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of emphasis on the male side of things because obviously they make up a larger percent of the suicide rate as opposed to the women. So obviously men are struggling with a lot more than what they ever have in history. But we're certainly not living in harder times necessarily. We're not living in harder times necessarily because you could argue that, World War I, World War II were tougher times. And that was where young men and fully grown men were all being called up to arms to fight. And they were doing it. And these guys were not topping themselves. Okay. So, and it's a tricky subject. There's lots of different views on it, but I think, for me going forward, because you can get bogged down in statistics and so on, but sometimes you just don't need any science. You don't need any statistics. You just have to open your eyes. And those words there, open your eyes, were in the original Unstoppable video. To me, they're the most powerful words and the most relevant words in today's society. If you want to know what is going wrong, open your eyes. Look around you. Look at people. Look at the way people are living nowadays. Look at what the majority of kids are doing, teenagers are doing, young adults are doing, and fully grown adults are doing. What are they spending their time predominantly? Are they doing stuff that is constructive to their mind? 100% no. Look around. I'm not even going to tell you what that is. Look around at what most people are looking at. New research has come out recently on the news for the youngsters. 6 hours a day spent doing a certain thing. You all know what I'm talking about. Then go into your supermarket, go into Tesco, go into Sainsbury's. Of course, they have a small section for the fruit and the veg, and they have some healthy products in there, of course. Okay? But then look at what the majority of what they sell is in a box, is in a tin, is pre-packaged, is man-made. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go into details in depth on that subject right at this point. Okay, I don't feel I need to. You don't need to have it thrown in your face by me, by a doctor, by a scientist. Open your eyes. We are living completely different. We do and watch completely different things now. So we're stimulating our brain in what I think is a completely negative way, the majority of the time. And this isn't everybody, but this is the majority. And what we put in our body, the higher percentage of what we put on in our body is intoxicated produce. And all the information, if you wanted to think, hang on a minute, the food I eat is fine. Hang on a minute, I just go on social media 4 hours a day. That's not a problem. Okay, just do your research. There was one person that I knew that went into hospital for the mentally ill. And the very first thing they told her when she was there was to come off Facebook. So it's not just my opinion. But I don't need to hear things like that for me to think, oh, hold on a minute, that's not good. If you just open your eyes and look around, you'll see what I see. And that is a lot of unhappy people, a lot of depressed people, a lot of anxious people, and a lot of people very, very lost in life, living with no real meaning, no real substance, no real purpose. And whatever time they do have, they fill it with unnourishing content for the mind. The mind is meant to be stimulated. It's an amazing creation. It needs goodness going into it. Goodness going into it through food that you eat, and goodness going into it through visual stimulation and mental stimulation, And that's pretty much what I see.
So you're saying that food is one of the main causes of today's problems with mental health?
You couldn't say that.
Yeah.
No one could say it 100%, but I have seen people with good credentials, good background, you know, in the scientific field, in the doctor field,
Yep.
quite clearly state that food is a massive problem when it comes to a lot of the physical and mental illnesses that are so prevalent in today's society. Now, but let's strip this down to common sense. My message, I'm obviously doing a lot of research on the subject, and there is a lot of stuff that baffles me, and you hear there's a lot of science behind what people say, which is great, and you need that. But let's just strip it down to common sense. I said this one thing in my last seminar, and I think I'll be saying it in every single seminar when I'm talking about the food. It's quite simple, and no one disagrees. No one disagrees with this.
No, I know.
If you eat like shit, you feel like
Shit.
right. Okay. There's no science needed here, right? There's no science needed.
No.
So, with the food side of things, when it came to me recovering from a mental breakdown, now I never saw food as a problem. I never saw food as a problem. I never ever once factored food into the state of my mind in my whole history from the age of 19 when I tried to commit suicide. When they put me on antidepressants, no nutritional information then from the GP, no awareness that food was a problem then. And in fact, predominantly it was drugs that was a problem, but I was still not eating great at that age. So going forward to now, when I had my breakdown, I started to look at everything. Again, the saying, open your eyes. I opened my eyes. Okay, so I think, what am I doing? So yes, the obvious, the drugs. Yes, the obvious, the alcohol. And yes, the obvious, the steroids. They were all the fundamentally the triggers, the real big triggers for my mental health issues, the main triggers for my breakdown, no question. But the food, how big of a part was it to play? I wanted to find out, which is when I went through this cleansing process. So I started to look at whole foods over processed foods. So your vegetables, your fruits. Started to look at getting more omega-3 fats into my diet. Not as much through fish, but I wanted to get a lot through the oils, through walnuts, through almonds, things like that. So I started to incorporate a lot more of that into the diet because, again, just looking at research, you know, omega-3 is linked to brain health and brain function and so on. So just add that all in. Start paying attention to the way I feel. Do I start to feel better almost immediately after, say, a fortnight? Yes. So I'm not going to ignore that. So let me carry on. Let me actually now add more good foods. Now let me drink more water. Let me add more portions of this, more portions of that, all good stuff. And no science needed, just common sense, just listening to my body. I felt better. Slowly but surely, I started to think a lot clearer. And actually, one of the most, the craziest ones for me, actually, is the actual memory. Because I was starting to have, I started to be aware that my short-term memory was a little bit off-key. It wasn't quite what it was, which was bothering me. And the over the course of a year, with the good foods, the good water, the high omega-3s, lots and lots of colour, lots and lots of raw vegetable as well. You know, I started to feel a lot sharper. My memory was sort of a lot, much better. You know, the clarity in my mind was becoming, you know, just so clear. You know, I was thinking about things. My creativity was coming back, and that was coming across in the seminars, in the content I was doing, and some of the stuff that I was coming up with. So then the passion and the drive to spread the message that food is a massive problem, a massive problem. I completely underestimated. I'd say now I'd say now for me, a belief that I have, and it's just a belief that I have, not necessarily a truth, not a scientific fact, a belief that I have out of experience and dedicating myself to 1 year of rehabbing my mind. I believe food is 90% a factor, a massive factor, causing a big problem. And again, I think it really, really hits home when I just keep it really, really simple and common sense driven. If you eat like shit, you feel like shit. So quite simply, pay attention to your body, start to take some bad things out, put some good things in, and you assess how you feel. Don't ask anyone, am I doing the right thing? Should I eat this? Should I eat that? You don't need to do that. We were hunter-gatherers at one point, completely self-sufficient, and we had senses like every other animal on the planet. Now we had a gift in evolution, and it was this. We actually rose above and became the top of the tree. Do you understand what I mean? So we're ahead of all the other creatures on the planet. Okay, we have gained an intelligent mind. So our mind has evolved over millions of years to be superior to that of the animal species. But we've almost become so intelligent that we're now creating a sort of a dumbness inside of us. So where we had such skill at knowing what to eat and how to eat in a time where if we didn't eat, we would have died. So we had to find out. We've lost that ability. And I know that we've lost that ability because I get asked a question so many times, and I actually find this the scariest question when people ask it. Tom, what do I eat? I don't know what to eat. Now, to me, that's shocking. You've got to understand what I just said. We were hunter-gatherers. We survived millions of years not knowing what to eat. We had to instinctively, our smell had to guide us, our touch, our taste had to guide us, and we survived. All the other creatures, all the other animals on the planet still do it so beautifully well, and they are peaceful. They're all peaceful. They sit in harmony with their surroundings. They eat, they hunt, they eat, they sleep, and they reproduce, and they're peaceful. Now, we do all of those same things, but we're absolutely miserable, and we're also confused. We don't actually really know. We're doing the eating part, but we're actually putting stuff into our body that we don't even know, and we don't question either what it is. If a company says this is healthy, it's a low fat, we go boom, straight in there. We're so blinded by the diet industry and advertising. We just do what they tell us to do. And my advice to everybody out there with mental health and food is do not do what they tell you to do. Do what you believe is right, and ask yourself the question, are you feeling like shit? Are you feeling irritable? Are you feeling tired all the time? Are you feeling sad? Do you feel symptoms of depression? Are you feeling slightly anxious? Do you feel that your ability to cope with life, with work, with family, with children is good? Or do you feel that you cannot cope with those elements that should be standard for us all? Can you not cope? Are you struggling? Something is wrong. So the simplest first point of call is look at the food. Because yes, Brooks, the answer to your question, I do think it is a big problem. However, again, it's my own opinion, a belief I have through experience. There's a lot of information out there that people can go and research. I'm just going to keep it at that. Dead simple. Become self-aware. Open your eyes. Question yourself. How do you feel? And if you are feeling yes to some of what I just said, start to make some changes.
And you'd put exercise in that same bracket?
Exercise, 100%. Again.
Food and exercise to
let me just repeat myself again. Open your eyes, look around. Okay, are we seeing people that are outside of the weight that they should be? Are we seeing people that are overweight? Yes. Are we seeing people that are very, very sedentary now due to the IT industry, you know, the technological industry, the computers? What do we do predominantly now? A lot of jobs are office-based. We're sitting down. We work
in fake light, as I was saying.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I listened to Tony Robbins because I know we were talking about this earlier about fake lighting and this and that. He said we live in a box world, which I really like. Everything is in a box. You wake up in a box, you get in a box car, you drive to your box office, and then you go home and you eat out of a box meal. And it's true. Everything is just kind of, I think it's confined to, we're more sedentary driven in this world. And because of the hours that we work and the fact that we can't actually cope very well with these hours and with this demand and this rat race lifestyle, we then tend to opt for going straight home. And again, referring back to the food, then maybe comfort eating, comfort drinking, and we just want to switch off. We just want to switch off from the life, and I totally get that. And then obviously exercise is taking a back seat. It is, however, you know, obviously it's my industry, so it is more popular than ever, I'd say. There's boot camps around and lots more options for people, but, you know, the statistics do show actually that the industry has grown and more people are exercising, but the majority of the population don't. And that's a fact. So is that a problem? Again, it's not rocket science.
No.
If you don't do anything, if you don't do any exercise, you don't feel good in yourself.
Well, for me, them two elements, exercise and eating right, have worked. We go back to, say, 2017, the very beginning of 2017. I had been on anti-anxiety medication for a year. We'll come to that in a second. And you got me to, you know, get back into exercise, eat right. At that time, I was fat, you know, and unhealthy. And it's just I just found that I was in this cycle, you know, again, just eating crap or drinking alcohol because it was acted like a suppressant. It just made me feel even worse the next day, and you do the same again. It weren't until through you, I think I started to reduce the medication, and while I was eating clean, and for me it worked, perfectly worked for me.
So you had some key elements there. Then basically, is what you're trying to say is, obviously through the eating healthily and cleaner foods and whole foods, lots more, basically less processed food and less sugar, and then just more water, more vegetables, more fruit, more lean meat. With that, you felt a difference. Then with the exercise, a further difference. And then you felt confident to reduce your medication. And you felt that during that time, there was an increase of well-being.
The way I see it is, you know, like, we've both been in the ring. We've both, you know, had a fight, boxing matches. Now, if you was to train for a fight, whether it's, you know, however long it is, 12 weeks or whatnot, you will, first of all, you'll be cleaning up your diet. You'll be training like an animal to give you the best possible chance in that fight. Now, when I was coming off the anxiety tablets or the medication, I was going to be in a fight against mental health, and to give me the best possible chance was the training and eating right.
Absolutely.
It's what worked. And it's still relevant now, even though I don't suffer the problems that I did back then. Eating clean and training every day as if I was in a fight gives me the best possible chance of, you know, beating it.
You hit the nail on the head. You know, you couldn't have said that more beautifully. And I said one thing in the seminar, like one of my seminars, and it is an undercurrent, is that unstoppable mindset means fighting, and the biggest opponent that we are going to face, is life. In this society, in our society, in the Western culture, I can't speak for the rest of the world. Some cultures still live in relative harmony with their surroundings and peace and are happy, and they live very minimalistic. But if you look at our society, it is so fast paced, so full on, and there is just so much against us. Even when someone comes into my gym and just say, I want to lose weight, and they've got 4 stone to lose, I immediately think you've got a battle on your hand, you have a fight on your hand. In terms of mental health, it absolutely is a fight. And I think, again, we all have this battle going on in our heads on a daily basis. For some, more than others, that battle is a full raging war, you know, where every day they're going up against negative thought patterns, and then they're fueling that with negative behavior patterns, whether it be comfort drinking, comfort eating, comfort drug taking, or switching off just by playing a computer game, switching off through social media, whatever it may be. So they're not helping themselves. They're not taking up arms. And what you just said there, you know, you now realise you have problems. I realise I have problems. And they're never going to go. I actually do believe they're never going to go, because it may be that we've just done some damage, and you know, the state of the brain is altered. So, but what we have to do is just stay on top of ourselves. That's all. Yeah. And that's what some people don't realise. And you've done it. So you took arms up against the you know, you waged a war yourself against mental health by saying, I'm not going to live my life on medication. And that was your decision as an adult to make. Yeah. I made the same decision, the same thing. I thought, I'm not going to take these antipsychotic drugs that you're going to prescribe me. I'm not going to take them. I am going to fight myself, my own battle. You looked at the problems, you know, you fully acknowledge that drink is an issue, and it plays a part in certain anxieties for you. I acknowledge the same thing. So then we took out what we had to take out to a certain degree, and we added in what we had to add in to a certain degree. And then you can win battles on a daily basis. The war goes on. A counsellor put it to me beautifully, actually, at the beginning of last year, because I was doing all this stuff to try and strengthen my mind, eat clean and do everything right. And I got to a stage in the year where I was a bit wobbly for a moment, and I got really disheartened. And I said to the therapist, I said, well, you know, I'm really gutted because I thought I was there. She said, no, you'll never be there. She said, it goes on and on and on. You're just on a path. Every now and then you'll come off that path. You just got to pull yourself back on. And you know, that was
but then you have the knowledge to do that.
Yeah. But
that's the best
thing. Absolutely. And it was one of the best things that someone could have told me, because then it gave me a sense of relief, because I knew that I'll always be a work in progress. Yeah. And if you can look at yourself like that, then you won't get disheartened. If you can look at yourself as a work in progress. So I'm still learning now, still fighting now. You know, when people see the animated me in the seminar, and they might see a positive side to me on these podcasts, you know, you got to understand there still is a negative side. You know, I still can have bad days where negative thoughts run through my mind, but I will quite simply be patient on those days now. I won't get too het up, and it might be that I might have a couple of bad days. I might even have a tricky week. But one thing I won't do is I won't go home and drink 4 pints of Stella like I would have done. I won't go home and do a line of Coke like I would have done. I wouldn't get through the week thinking I'm just going to get so smashed this weekend and switch off from this horrendous week, which I would have done every week. I would have done every week, pre-breakdown. That's what I was doing every single week. I won't do any of that anymore. I'll quite simply ride it out. I'll still keep on with my good food, and it will quite simply pass. And that's that.
But how, I want to get onto the subject of medication, but obviously we've stated that we've both come off medication, and, you know, if you're ever thinking of doing this, anyone, make sure you seek professional advice first and foremost. But when I first went to the doctor, and I was given, I think I was signed off for about a month, and I was put on the anti-anxiety tablets. They take 2, sometimes 4 to 6 weeks to kick in. Would you not recommend that to start with, or
No? Well, the thing is,
how do you think the NHS, or how do you think the medical profession could do better?
Let's look at it. Let's look at it from just a different point of view for a minute. Let me just get people thinking. Okay, so let's look at an extreme case, and I've done this. Gone in to the doctor, very depressed, suicidal thoughts, asked me a few questions, none of them lifestyle related.
No, I didn't get any.
No. Say, yeah, okay, you're depressed. I'm going to prescribe you this. We'll assess you. I think every couple of weeks or every 4 weeks you need to come back. I think, no, they gave me a 4-week dose, 4-week course, and then they said come back in 4 weeks and we'll assess. They take X amount of time to kick in, which I always remember thinking, because I was so desperate at the time, and I was thinking, God, what, I've got to wait another 4 to 6 weeks just for them to kick in. And I was like, I'm desperate. I need you to take this pain away. Please, can you take this pain away now, please? But no, what they'll do is they'll give you medication, and one of the top side effects, if you look at the list, is an increased risk of suicide. So I'm going in there with suicidal thoughts and a dark depression, and they give me a medication with no questions asked about any toxins that I'm putting into my body through food or drugs. No questions of that, how toxic my body is at the minute. They'll give me a toxic medication, which is, any medication is toxic to the body, even painkillers that you can get over the counter. And they'll give me one with numerous side effects, but one being so scary for me now looking at it, has an increased risk of suicide. And then they'll send you away, no follow-up call, no one to watch over you, no one to know if that side effect's going to kick in or not. So just that one thing alone makes me question, and should make anyone question, the route of medication. The problem I have is this: they're given out too readily. I believe, and it's just my belief again, my belief only, that I caused my depression. I caused all my negativity, and I caused my breakdown, and I did it through bad, incorrect living for a long period of time. Not just physically, but not being able to cope and manage my own mind. Now, I had no control over my mind. I had no control over the way I thought. I was just, my mind was just a running mess of negativity on a day-to-day basis. And I meet people the same way. Just having negative thoughts, quite simply just constantly moaning about things, causes a stress. So if you did that for 12 months, just that alone can cause you depression. Look at the flip side. If I was to walk around whistling and singing tunes, don't worry, be happy every day, and just had a really good outlook on life, and looked at the birds and thought they're beautiful, look at the sun, that's beautiful, oh, look at the rain, that's lovely, because now my grass is going to be green instead of moaning, then I'd be quite happy, I'd be quite content. But my mind was running out of control. So you've got all of that, all of the food, all of the drugs. You go into the doctor, obviously you're going to be feeling like shit. Obviously you're going to be feeling sad and depressed. There's no rocket science in that, okay? But you've got an illness, apparently now. You have an illness. Eating shit food is not an illness. Drinking alcohol in obscene amounts is not an illness. Using drugs recreationally is not an illness. And talking smack every day, moaning about the weather and about the society, and worrying about all world's issues, and stressing over your kids when they're not hardly really doing anything, and just being a stress, that's not an illness. These are all things that are controllable. So you go to the doctor, you explain the symptoms of your crazy life, and they go, yeah, you're depressed. You now fall into this category of this mental health epidemic, okay? And they give you tablets. I believe this is how it should be. You go into the GP, you say you're feeling like this, sad, I feel depressed, maybe you're suicidal, whatever it may be. Right, okay. Whole case history, a full screening of the last 10 years of your life. You might have had a marriage breakup in there, and you might have dealt with that marriage breakup for the last 3 years, drinking and blocking stuff out. So you've got all this emotion still in you from the breakup, none of it being dealt with. You could be overweight, so you've been pumping your body with fat, sugar, and all the chemicals related to that kind of food, and so on and so on and so on. A full screening. Do you exercise? Do you do this? Do you do that? Right. Okay, now before I give you medication, and I'm going to say firstly that there is an increased risk of suicide with this medication and a whole other host of side effects. It's really, really a last resort, Mr. Brooks. So I'd love you to do this. We've got a link with this gym. They do a great mental health scheme. They'll put you on this 14-day challenge, Unstoppable Mindset Seminar, and they'll actually get you fit. You'll train 3 to 4 days a week, blah, 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 so on and so on and so on. Or there could be a scheme in a park, or there could be a scheme on this, or there could even be an online scheme, so you didn't even have to leave your house, but you had to follow it. You had to follow it. And then you come back in 8 weeks or 6 weeks when the medication, you know,
So it's the same time frame.
thing,
It'd be the same time frame anyway, right.
And then make an assessment. How do you feel now? Well, actually, do you know what, Doc? I am actually feeling a lot better. I'm still fit. Right, okay, brilliant. So we need to say, right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to put you on talking therapy. I want you to read this book, which you can download from Unstoppable Mindset website. And I want da-da-da-da-da, so on and so on and so on. You've solved a problem. There are extreme cases, Mark, there are extreme cases. Post-traumatic stress disorder, abusive relationships, parents abusing children, so the children are depressed, psychological damage, okay? Where maybe the damage is so severe, so severe, that medication is just deemed to be the only answer at that one point. But even for those people, there should be exactly the same method, process to go through. Yeah. And when I say extreme cases, I'm saying if that person comes in and they've got cuts all over their arms, fresh, self-harm, delusional, I'm talking serious, then fair enough. And don't forget that I've shared a hospital with these people. So I've seen the difference. You know, I could look at them and look at me and think, okay, my God, yeah, they're running around. They're about to kill somebody in here now. They're violent. They're like lashing out at the staff. So they need some sort of sedative, some sort of medication. They're an absolute threat to everybody around them unless they're sedated. Fair enough. So I'm talking about in the extreme cases. But if you're coming into the doctor and you're still with it and you can still hold a conversation, but you're really low and you may be having suicide thoughts, there should be a scheme where people are helped and looked at and looked after.
Because you're probably going to get signed off. Like, as I was signed off for a month from work.
Exactly.
You know,
so you have all the
until
time.
the medication kicked in before I could get back to being a normal life in terms of going to work without symptoms of anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you could be doing it during that time, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you could, without the medication, you could be signed off 2-4 weeks and, adopt the healthy lifestyle.
As we're saying, I would like anyone watching the podcast, you can comment on these, right?
Yeah.
So please, I would love your feedback. If you agree or disagree that there should be a new system where all gyms, every gym in your local area actually has to, by law even, be registered with the GP and provide a mental health, fitness and well-being scheme where if someone went to the doctor, they'd say, right, we've got, Pure Gym's involved, Just Train's involved, this boot camp, they're involved, and all of them have a system, an 8-week or a 4 to 8 week system where they watch you, help you, inspire you, motivate you, encourage you to get fit, get healthy, change your eating, because I absolutely 100% believe that you could, 95% of the cases, you could swerve the medication route. You really could. It's my belief, my opinion. If you agree, please, I'd love your feedback. If you disagree, I'd also love to hear your opinion as to why you think medication should be the first and foremost option.